Okay, so can you mute your microphone for me, please? And turn your cameras off, okay? Just want to make sure everybody's ready. Oh, one sec. Perfect. Okay, so here we go. Welcome once again. As I had said before, I'm really pleased that you guys are here spending an evening with me. And this is going to be your major specific video chat for civil engineering. And welcome to Rensselaer. I'm Karen Lewis, your advisor, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know all of you throughout this first year for you. And I advise civil, environmental, and mechanical engineers. So I have a couple of different backgrounds dealing with all of those majors. So for today, we're going to talk about 4 key points. We're going to talk about academic advising and what you would need to know what my role is. We're going to do a little bit about the curriculum planning for your fall schedule and the resources that are going to support you. And then we're going to open up for questions. So please feel free to let them roll when we're done with this presentation. So the academic advising, I want to go over what the relationship is a little bit because it's important for you to know how my role helps you and also how the department helps you throughout your career at RPI. So we are the School of Engineering hub. And when I say we, I have 4 other women who work with me, and we advise all of the major engineering majors in the School of Engineering for their first year. And after your first year, you're going to be assigned a major specific academic advisor. So in your instance, you will be receiving a civil engineering faculty advisor. So my role is for us to get together and discuss what all of your curriculum requirements are, so you understand what they are until you graduate. And if you have AP credits or transfer credits or anything along those lines, those are things that we're going to address. And we're also going to develop a 4-year plan. So what that looks like is we're going to lay out all the courses that you need throughout your entire career here as a student. And if there's anything that happens along the way, I can refer you to appropriate resources on campus and, career center, all that kind of stuff. Now, your faculty advisor plays a little bit different role. They're going to support you for curriculum, but you're already going to know that because you and I are going to learn that together. And they're going to talk to you about research. They're going to talk to you about internships. If you're interested in co-ops, those are the things that faculty like to talk about because it's specific to what they're doing, what their research is. And if you're interested in study abroad, you're going to have that conversation with me to get the ball rolling. But most likely, study abroad semester is going to take place while you're with your faculty advisor. So they're going to help you through that and picking courses at another college and all that kind of stuff. And the arch semester, which happens at the end of your sophomore year, is another thing that your faculty advisor will help you navigate. So it's kind of a partnership between the hub and faculty. So these are the ladies I work with. And the reason I put this slide in is because I want to make clear, as even though I think civil engineering is one of the best majors, obviously, you are not locked in to civil engineering as your main focus or any major for that matter, in your first year. Rensselaer sets it up that you're going to be taking core classes that are relevant to all engineering majors during your first year because they want you to be open to other experiences. So in the event that you come to me and you say, I really like civil engineering, but I was also contemplating biomed, then I would refer you to my colleague Valerie because she is the biomed advisor. And we work as a team to support one another. So it's never an inconvenience to discuss another major. And if there's something that I don't know, I have resources available at my fingertips to set up an advising appointment for you with another advisor. So here we are. We're going to talk about registration for fall. About a week ago, I sent you a link for the registration guides, and we asked that you review them and kind of put together some questions. That registration guide is super important because it's going to be a resource for you to help you build your fall schedule. So you're going to be using some tools that you might not be completely familiar with at this point, and we're going to touch on them a little bit tonight. But you can keep going back to that registration guide for a point of reference to find a wealth of information. And right now we're in the middle of our video chat. So this is where questions happen. And also after this meeting, you can set up individual meetings. So that's going to be what happens before student orientation. Normally when we all gather in person on campus, I would be talking to you as a group and then individually to address your advising needs. But since we can't do that, I'm going to give you a link that you could book an appointment with me, whether it be virtually like we're doing right now, or you can have a telephone meeting with me to discuss all the details of your specific situation, any questions that you might have about APs, or even just career goals and things along that line. So our communication doesn't end here. I'm available to you all summer. So I want you to utilize that while you're making your schedule and even after if you have any questions that come up. So now let's talk about our curriculum planning for fall. You're going to look at the registration guide for templates, but I'm going to pass this stuff because this isn't really relevant. What I really want to talk to you about are the specific things that civil engineers are going to be taking. So in your first semester, as I discussed in the registration guide, we are probably going to focus on these courses right here. And chemistry is important because it's a prerequisite for courses that you're going to take later in the curriculum. Graphics and CAD is only offered in the fall, so that's something that we would want you to register for. And Intro to Engineering Analysis is your first engineering class. And then we're going to talk about math because I want you to take a math. If you have APs, we might advance to Calculus 2 or differential equations, and we'll address that. And we're also going to talk about your Haas courses and pathways. So I'm not going to get too deep into it unless you guys have questions about those, but this is pretty much the focus of what you're going to register for when you register for classes. So registration begins on July 13th, and you are going to receive a time ticket. I've received a lot of emails saying I didn't get my time ticket yet. They haven't been sent out yet. They're going to be sent out to you around July 6th, I would say. So keep checking your RPI email. And when you get that time ticket is very specific to you. So you might be talking to other students in civil engineering, and you might have a time ticket for July 13th at 10 o'clock. And you might talk to somebody else and they have a registration ticket for July 14th at 2 o'clock. I want you to rest assured that each registration window, they release a number of seats for every class. So I don't think there isn't a position where you're going to be at a disadvantage if you register during your time window. Everybody is allocated the same number of seats for each section, so you have the same chance of getting into a class as someone who registers at a later date. So during this time, you're going to be making schedules, and I want you to have a bunch of them because in the instance that there is a class that's full, we need a backup plan. And Yaks is a resource that is used to build a schedule. And more recently, I had a student bring to my attention that the computer science kids have developed a new program called Quacks, which I'm going to show you too, because I find Yaks to be a little bit cumbersome. It's been slow lately, and Quacks seems to be much more efficient. So I'm going to show you that quick, and we'll move through a mock schedule, if you will. So we'll do that in a little bit. So again, I'm going to talk to you about the registration resources. I mentioned Yaks, and now we have the new one, Quacks. Apparently, we like to rhyme here. And we have SIS. Now, SIS is the forum that you're actually going to go to when you register for your classes. So that is where you're clearing your financial hold. And if none of this sounds familiar to you, the steps are all referenced in the registration guide. So we could go through that, or I suggest you go through that. And if you still have questions that go beyond what is covered in the guide and what we covered tonight, those are the questions you're going to bring up after this and also in our personal meetings. Because your third resource is me, your academic advisor. So that is a really key thing. The three, Yaks, Quacks, and me, are going to help you build your schedule. So here we are. We're at your questions already, and I have a couple of other resources that I'm going to bring up as the questions arise. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm hoping that we can talk about some things kind of freely and see if you have any obstacles that you've encountered so far, or even anything you've heard or any concerns that you have. So feel free to chat, type it in the chat, and I will answer them as they come up. And if you guys don't ask questions, I am going to give you questions. So one thing I want to bring up, I'm actually going to show you, I'm going to share my screen again since nobody's typed anything. For the health forums, I can't go to my doctors because New York City is just showing opening up. Okay. I think a couple of different things can happen with that. I know that they have some telemeetings. I know my personal doctor is meeting. If you are up to date with your immunizations, there is a chance that you can have your forms emailed to your doctor to be signed and have a telemeeting. So I would look into that option. But in the event that your doctor's office is still not doing that prior to you getting to campus, I would call the health center at Rensselaer directly to address that. Because usually your health paperwork isn't going to prevent you from registering for this session, but they do put a hold on your account if you don't have all of your affairs in order for when you register for spring. So I've had a couple of unfortunate surprises from students when they didn't have their vaccines or something updated when they went to register for their spring courses. Is it common to arrange schedules around fall sports? Very much so. Athletics is a big part of Rensselaer, and basically you can utilize the tools of Yaks and Quacks to arrange a schedule for fall that will make room for your practices. So as a rule, athletes usually have to have all of their courses end by 4 p.m. So what you would do, and I'll just share this so I can show you something really quick to mock, like a mock schedule. I'm going to pull up the new program. Let me get out of this for a second. I'm going to pull up the new Quacks program that I was aware of. And if you look, it's just quacks.org, and I can always email you guys the link. But what we would do in theory, when you are arranging a class for athletics, we're going to take chemistry, for example. Chemistry 1 is the course that you would take as a civil engineer. And Quacks lays it out that it shows you what time each section is here, and these are your course registration numbers. So those are the course numbers that you're going to want when you register. And as you go through the schedule, you can highlight every single one that is conducive to athletics. But if you look here, you see a 5 o'clock one. You're not going to want that schedule because it's too late. So we're going to bypass it. And that's kind of how we're going to maneuver through the curriculum when you're an athlete. And also you could do this just for general knowledge, I mean, ultimately, I'm not going to advise you not to schedule 8 a.m.s, but some students are like, I know personally it's really hard for me to wake up. So you might want to avoid 8 a.m.s. So then we're going to take out the ones that might have an 8 a.m. So that's kind of how we would go through. And now you have three options. You have this schedule for chemistry, you have that one, you have this one. So that's kind of how it works. And the time grid is along the side. So that's something that if you run into issues with it, we can always talk about it. But that's kind of a brief overview of how you can manipulate your schedule to make sure you can accommodate athletic schedules. Um, okay. I haven't been checking things as much as I would have liked, and I can't find any emails about a registration guide. Okay, well, I will email it to you. So I'm just going to put your name down and I will get it over to you. It's basically something that would be from me personally, but sometimes it's really important, and I don't know why this happens, but even for me, student emails end up in my junk filter, so I have to check that on occasion. I would be offended if it was if my email ends up in your junk filter, but it happens. So be sure to check that too, but I will resend the email. And if anybody else lets me know that they haven't found the link to the registration guide, you can email me that or let me know in this chat as well. And okay, what Haas electives are beneficial for civil majors? That's a great question. And I have a couple of ideas. Generally, anything that interests you would be good for Haas. You know, Haas doesn't necessarily have to impact your major. It could be something that you're just generally interested in. I have students who like music, and that might be their focus for their Haas pathways. Um, but a lot of things that make sense for me in my mind when I think about civil engineering is economics. A lot of times, you know, if you're doing a project, the financial piece of things comes into play. So having a background in that whole aspect of things might help you. And another one would be sustainability, because you know we're building things or we're analyzing soil or we're doing some kind of conservation or recycling. All of those things are key for civil, and sustainability is just a reality of today, you know. So sustainability is one of those courses. I think it's sustainability debates is offered in the fall, and that leads to a pathway that kind of goes hand in hand with civil engineering. So those are just two that come to mind. But if you want to talk about Haas in more detail, I can show you a couple of links where you can get that information and read more about the pathways. How do we use Rensselaer e-billing? Is it possible? Okay. As far as e-billing is concerned, because I do academics, I don't even know what Rensselaer e-billing is. So you're going to probably want to contact the Office of First Year, the FYE office, to get information about how to use Rensselaer e-billing, because they don't even give me any information about that whatsoever. Is it possible to take physics one in fall and then take chemistry in spring? Yes, it is. Both courses are offered in both fall and spring. And basically, I'm going to share my screen again and we're going to look at the template just so I could show you a point of reference for that. Okay. So this is your civil curriculum. And as I said, we're going to focus on these courses. Now, chemistry is a prerequisite for courses that you're going to be taking in your sophomore year. It's environmental engineering, this intro course right here. So if you wanted to swap physics 1 for chemistry, say it looks better with your planning when you're creating your schedule, that's perfectly fine. The most important thing is that we have all of these courses done before well, actually, we'll talk about it because some of them we can replace with other courses. I like to go a little rogue off of the template just because there's some courses that I know have a notorious reputation for being difficult. So sometimes I'm going to push those ahead. So it gives you some time to take it, and then in the event that you aren't comfortable with it, we could always postpone it for another semester because they're prerequisite courses. And we'll get into those with the individual meetings, but to answer your question long and short, physics 1 and chemistry 1 are interchangeable. So yes, you could do that. The other thing that I want to show you on the template while we're here, one of the things that is really cool about civil engineering is that you get to pick a concentration. And I ask students, in their first semester, what are you thinking your concentration is going to be? And most of the time, students have an answer. The concentrations are listed right in this semester. We have transportation, we have geotechnical, we have structural, and we have environmental engineering concentrations. So the department likes that you take all of those intro courses simultaneously to make the determination about what concentration is the best for you. And it makes a lot of sense because if you're learning all of them at the same time, you can kind of come to a conclusion. And very often, and I'm surprised at how often, somebody might tell me that their concentration is X, and then by the time they complete those intro courses, they change their mind. So I kind of get excited for students to take those intro courses because I think it's a little bit of a revelation, if you will. Okay, so let's get back to the chat. Okay, so the civil engineering planning sheet says we should contact you if we have 16 or more AP, IB, and transfer credits. What changes if we do? Well, the reason why I want you to get in touch with me are for twofold. One, I want to make sure that you're taking classes that you're comfortable with taking. A lot of times students will have Haas AP credits, which is fine. And those don't impact your curriculum as much as your math and science courses. So sometimes, Physics 2 in your first semester at Rensselaer might not be something that I would advise you to take just because it's a really rigorous program. And I don't want you to be shell shocked in your first semester. I want you to have friends. I want you to do things on campus that are fun rather than being like, studying all the time. So when you have a lot of stuff that deviates from the typical plan, I want to advise you just so you're not taking on courses that are too difficult to balance. So that's one of the reasons. And the other reason is if you're coming with a lot of Haas classes for AP or IB or transfer, you can apply it up to 8 credits, so 2 courses of those towards your Haas core. But that makes it very specific with what pathway you're going to choose for Haas because it kind of locks you into a 3-course sequence. So we got to make sure that we choose accurately. When you come in with less credits, you have more flexibility. So that's one of the things that I want to make sure that we utilize your credits to the best ability that we can. And also, when you're advanced by more than a semester, I also would like you to speak with the department head of civil because he likes to actually introduce you to your faculty advisor a little earlier or even have a conversation with you about what your goals are for civil engineering. So usually that happens in your sophomore year, but if you're advanced, it might happen a little earlier. So if you do have a surplus of credits, get in touch with me because it's just a couple of things I would want to go over with you. If you plan to dual major, how do we add the classes? Will we be assigned another major or another advisor? It depends on the dual. Civil engineering, I don't have a ton of duals. If you're dueling with like an economics dual or you're doing a dual with chemistry or something along those lines, you definitely, we would incorporate those courses within the first year. It might not be within the very first semester, but we would talk about it. If you do want to do a dual, it's something definitely I would want you to reach out with and talk to me about because the earlier we plan, the better off we'll be. One of the most popular duals with civil is actually environmental. So they're actually in the same department. Civil and environmental is on the same floor, same office, and the faculty overlap a bit. So that is something that is a little bit more streamlined. But if we're going outside of the School of Engineering, we have to do a little bit more planning. And if you're doing a civil and environmental dual, most likely you'll remain with one advisor. For the first year, obviously you'll stay with me because I advise both of those majors. But for faculty advising, you'll have one because they can oversee both of those course curriculums. Now, if you're going outside of the School of Engineering, you're absolutely going to have two advisors. And that's going to be your responsibility to make sure that you meet with both of them, because very often those duals, a civil faculty member is going to know his or her curriculum very well, but they might not know what the requirements are for that other component. So meeting with both of those is very important to make sure that all of your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. And they sign off on the curriculum every year. So that's something we could definitely talk about in more detail. What else you got? So I got something. Oh, when can we schedule a meeting with you? Anytime you want. I send out emails pretty much. You probably have quite a few from me now at this point. In my signature of my email is a link to book an appointment with me. So what that does is it gives you access to my calendar, and you can book an appointment with me anytime, as many as you want. There's no limit during your first year. So I have students who meet with me once a month. I have students who meet with me once a semester. So it depends on how much you want to get to know things. I'm more than willing to talk about anything. So it's totally your discretion. There is a required meeting um, once a year. So that's going to be something that you have to do. You have to meet with me at least once. And if you don't meet with me before registration for that semester opens up, you will be unable to register. So it's not something that I control, but I definitely do think those meetings are important just to check in to make sure that everything you're doing is on track. So one thing that I want to show you quick, because as we discussed the IHSS classes, share my screen again and go back to your mechanical curriculum. If you look here, this IHSS Haas class is really important for you to take in your first year. So there's a couple of websites that Haas has that helps you navigate that a little clearer. So I'm going to show you those. Hold on one second. So right here, it's and I can send you guys this link if you can't find it. If you just Google Haas inquiry, it's going to come up. But these are all of the IHSS classes that are going to be offered this fall. So if you click on it, and the sustainability debates was the class that I brought up to you, it'll say, a course description and what you're going to be doing in the class. So it tells you what the IHSS course number is, and it's a helpful resource to kind of gain a sense of what the course is about, because some of these are a little vague. And nature and society, okay, that could be a lot of different things. And this is another class that is pretty popular among my civil and environmental engineers, so you might want to look into these and read about these at your leisure. And the thing that happens as well with Haas is you might have heard the term pathways thrown around. Now, a pathway is a course, a sequence of courses that are three, and you have to take 5 Haas classes total, but 3 of them have to fall within a pathway. So the pathway inquiries, so say for example, we wanted to do that nature and society class. If you click on it on this website, it tells you which pathways are associated with that particular class. So you want to do an IHSS class that is hopefully going to lead you to a pathway of 2 additional courses that's going to be interesting to you. And there's another website. I wish they were all in one spot, but like I said, I can send you all 3 of these links that are going to show you what the pathways are. So there was an environmental futures pathway, and then it lists all of the courses that you could choose from that would satisfy that pathway. So Haas is a little bit more planning, and it does give you some flexibility because it allows you to choose the courses within a category to kind of complete. So I hope those are helpful, and I can send those all to you when we're done here. Do you guys have any other questions? Is there anything you're hearing, or how are you feeling about being a civil? Tell me more. Okay. So I'm going to leave this open for a couple of minutes just because I want you to ask questions, and I also want you to feel comfortable discussing anything with me, because if I don't have the answer for you, if it's not related to academics, we can always find those resources to assist you. So look at the hub and look at your hub advisor, who is me. As a resource for anything. Like last year I had students come and they were like, "Oh, I'm having a roommate conflict." And granted, that's not something that I necessarily know how to deal with, but it's something that I can, definitely provide resources for you. So, nothing's off the table really, and I want you to feel comfortable coming to me with anything. So if you guys don't, oh, here we go. Are there any classes that would help with potentially running a civil engineering firm later in our career? That's a great question. If you're going to run a firm, I think management makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you how you can do that, because there's a couple of things that come up on the template that give you that flexibility within your curriculum. So going back to the mechanical engineering template, mechanical civil engineering template, you're going to see here that you have free electives, and they're scattered in the later part of your curriculum. Now, free electives are courses that are 4 credits, so you have 12 credits total that are free, and you can do anything you want with them. So I've had students who might be struggling a little bit with their curriculum. So they would ask their friends what quote unquote easy classes would be to utilize as a free elective, just to give yourself a little bit of a GPA boost, or other students who might not be sure of what their focus is. Say, for example, you really like structural engineering, but you also like geotechnical engineering. You can take free electives and utilize them to take more classes within the civil engineering curriculum. So that's something you can definitely do, become a super civil, if you will. You can also use free electives for a minor. So like I mentioned before, if you're going to run your own firm at some point in your life, management and managing people is going to be definitely a part of that. So we might use a free elective to take the Intro to Management course. And then you might actually advance within the management series to get a minor. And what that would do, a minor is usually 4 classes. So you could use all 3 of your free electives to take 3 out of 4 of the management classes and then take one additional course, and you would have completed your management minor. And the other thing that's good to note here is just because these classes are down here, free electives can be taken at any time. So with advice from your advisor, just to make sure that you're staying on point with the courses that we do need to satisfy each semester, we could throw a free elective up here if you wanted to take a management class sooner than later, or an astronomy class or something along those lines. So it's definitely a possibility. And the other thing that I think is important too, going back to that original question, if you are thinking about having a management or an engineering firm later, economics is an important piece of that as well. You do take engineering economics, but you might want to choose economics as being your Haas pathway to deeper your understanding of the financial piece of everything and how it impacts businesses, and different companies and society and, all of those demographics. So economics and management, I think, are good outside of the School of Engineering to help you with that. Are there classes targeted to construction management? Yes. And I'm going to show you something else too, that a lot of students will navigate on their free time just to learn more about the civil engineering curriculum, because we could talk about it all day, but I want you to be empowered to be able to do that. So I'm going to go back, and I'm sure I'm making you dizzy by all my screen sharing here, but we're going to go to catalog, if I could type. And I'm going to show you something else. So this is the Rensselaer catalog. Now, right now, it's featuring 2019 and 2020. And you're going to want to focus on the 2020 to 2021 catalog, but that's not usually loaded until later this summer. So for now, we can look at the 2019. And I'm going to take you to courses. And we're going to find the civil prefix, and we're going to filter. So now we're in all of these civil classes. So you have your intro to civil, you have all of your intro courses, and you were asking about construction. So we actually have a construction management course. So if you click on the hyperlink there, it's going to tell you, this one's a brief course description, but it's going to give you a description of the course. It's going to tell you when it's offered, and if there's any prerequisites, it would also reference that. And at this instance, they want you to wait until your senior year to take that class. So that might be something that you would want to do moving forward if construction is something you're interested in. And you have design for constructability. And now you look and you'll see this is more for a structural engineer, because this is one of the design electives for structural. These are both structural engineering courses. So that's going to be something that would have a little course planning. But you can go through these and see if any of these are in particular interesting to you, and you can always talk about these with me or your faculty advisor when you meet with them in the future. So the catalog is a great resource to learn more about the courses that are offered. I hope this is helping. And like I said, I mean, the questions don't have to end tonight. We can always have meetings where we could discuss all of this in the future if you're shy or not sure what your questions are going to be. So is there anybody else? Okay, I'm going to wait another minute, but in the meantime, I'm going to say thank you, because thank you. Thanks for coming, guys. It's really helpful when you have a student who's engaged, and I get crickets a lot, so it's really nice to have the questions, and I really look forward to working with you. So welcome again, and thank you for spending the evening with me. And like I said, book an appointment with me, and I'm going to email that registration guide link out again, and get in touch with me. Okay? So thanks again, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. And good luck with registration for fall. Okay, I'm going to stop recording, and I'm ending the meeting.